aspects which still have to improve. There's no way in which you can look the other way when these data are spread before us. So, in a forum like this, and also from the finance ministry, it's very difficult to just talk on specifics and also to talk on what could be done immediately to address this, because it will have its own implication of, oh, the finance minister is committed on this, how much would she give? So I'm going to talk a bit on the larger issues and then probably address one or two of these concerns. We can never forget the fact that it is the efficiency of governance which delivers on fundamental ground realities. Whether it's malnutrition, whether it is the number of schools with quality teachers, whether it is measuring the outcome in schools, each grade for its learning outcomes and so on, it is a question of how governance is taken down to the last point. The difference between our government, and I'll take the name of the Honorable Prime Minister, the difference between a governance under an experienced Prime Minister as opposed to experience maybe, but let's say the dedication and the kind of commitment for the national cause being very different. The outcomes can also be different. So sometimes we'll say 45 years of one party rule but has not delivered, whereas 10 years of what Prime Minister Modi has delivered is so clearly before us and so on. The cutting edge difference is if the commitment is I have to deliver on every point rather than be at the top, lead from the front, but down below and on the specifics, each one does his own or her own, even with the intentions being good. So the difference in this approach is from the time a particular section has to be addressed or a particular scheme has to be launched, Prime Minister Modi's operational, which all of us have understood and we work with him on that, is from the time you conceive a project to the time it is completely taken to saturation point in the ground, he monitors it continuously. So it will look as if some people might comment, does he micromanage? It's very difficult to believe. But he does, because that is the stuff he's made of. And he thinks he needs to be clear that it is progressing towards the outcome that he had laid out at the beginning. There's no good announcing it, no good putting money there, but you have to see that it operationalizes. So when you're taking this approach, your outcomes can definitely be read out like the way Anand did. But if I were to do it, they'll say, okay, she's come here to boast about what she has achieved in the last couple of years, but I'm sorry, so that will not be acceptable. I can quite understand that. But today what Anand has done is what many of the media and also many of the observers are doing if they have that thought. But if they have a different kind of an agenda, obviously they'll not speak about it. But it is necessary, therefore, to recall what India has achieved in the last few years, particularly in the last 10 years, only because this has been possible only with a government which has remained absolutely beyond corruption. Not an element of corruption in anything that we do. No pecuniary advantages, no policy distortions, no subjectivity anywhere. Any scheme, everybody gets it. Any scheme, transparent process. Any tendering of jobs, it's all through the global tendering process. It's out in the digital whatever. Whenever somebody bids, it's all known immediately. So there is no way there is a hidden, agenda of some people like to make their money, and therefore any number of calls or allegations that you only favor, let's say one A or the other A, I don't want to take names here, are all calls of frustration, calls coming out of frustration, because you're just not able to say anything about this government, that it is corrupt in its, let's say, moral values, corrupt in its pecuniary interests, corrupt in its way of doing business. No. And therefore, they keep saying that is why it is important when you collect all the achievement lists, when you provide houses, when you provide drinking water, when you provide medical insurance for up to 5 lakhs to individual in a family and within a year, to family in a year. These are not benefits going to big businesses. These are, after all, reaching the common citizens. And when I bring in concessions of rates which are different in income tax, particularly in the new regime, and I make it a point to make sure that I give the standard deduction enhancement within 2 years of having got the new regime, it is because we want to make sure that the benefit goes to the salaried middle class, rather than to, I've given rate reduction, but it will benefit everybody till the high net worth individual, and therefore I've given for middle class, but I'm sorry, it also goes to the high net worth. That is the structure of the rates and the slabs in income tax. But if I have to particularly give something to the middle class, that's where I've increased the standard deduction. The rates are also changing, but that will be applicable for everyone who declares a personal income. So these kind of constantly looking and pairing out interests and sections for whom there is a requirement of having to extend some kind of assistance, we go that far and do it. So when we talk in great detail, it becomes like your communication is poor, yeah, you're talking too much technicalities. This is not the way to go about it. You have to say in simple terms, I've given you 1,000 crores for only distributing between, those in the age of 10 and those in the age of 25. No, we don't do that. And that is why this debate about freebies acquire a dimension, and we are most often told, even you are engaging in freebies. No, we are not engaging in freebies for 2 reasons. One, we understand the section for which we have to give it. 2, in the states where we are providing it, we clearly understand the state's financial situation, and we clearly say the scheme will be subject to the assembly and passing it through the budget. And therefore the freebies are not fancy cuckoo land decisions which have no corroboration with the state's own policies. So that's going through the process, and states which have rushed into giving these kind of promises are today facing severe crisis. I don't need to name them, you're aware. So states which promised returning to the old pension scheme, when you can't sustain it. And that is why today, with a committee of experts talking with stakeholders, we have come up with a unified pension scheme. So the reason why I have gone to giving you these examples is to say quite a lot of mind application happens at every stage. It is not left to just say one section of the administration. Everybody and also the stakeholders are brought in and decisions are taken like that. So therefore, where are we now? The list of achievements, the list of what has been achieved in the last 10 years and particularly in the last 1 year, particularly in the last 5 years, have all very briefly presented before you by...
As the meme goes, you have one job, her job, various elements to this question. And I think I want to, in whatever the 7 minutes and 30 seconds that I have, if you were to look at some parameters, for example, when we gained independence in 19, today it is upwards of 86%. Our poverty rate was 71%, largely in no small measure because of the achievements of this Sitaram. And if you were to look, it's 11%. In 2014, our GDP per capita was